The Great Barrier Reef is dying. That's according to a new aerial survey by scientists. The World Heritage Site in Australia attracts billions of dollars in tourism every year, but scientists now say that 35% of it is either dead or dying due to mass coral bleaching. They say the underlying cause is climate change and that the El Nino weather phenomenon has made things worse. Let's get more on this study. Speak to John Pandolfi, he's the programme lead at the University of Queensland Centre for Coral Reef Studies. John, many thanks for joining me today. Now, the people behind this study from James Cook University describe this as the most extreme case of mass bleaching they have ever measured. What exactly is mass bleaching and how worrying is this study?
Well, mass bleaching occurs when the coral symbionts, the little algae that live in the cells of the coral, are expelled by the coral, and they leave a bleached, a white coral in its in the wake. And what mass bleaching means that this occurs on a global scale. There's been several global scale bleaching events, 3 of them in the last 18 years. And what it's meant is that corals around the world have suffered very high mortality, and many reefs are dead from these events. And what we've reported is the very worst event that's ever occurred on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia.
And can coral actually recover from bleaching? Is there any way to go back?
Well, when a coral bleaches, the algae are expelled, but the coral doesn't die. It just turns white. But if the algae doesn't come back into the coral's tissues, then the coral will die. So bleaching doesn't necessarily in and of itself result in mortality, but it can do. And in the case of the Great Barrier Reef, we've lost 35% of our corals in the northern part of the reef. Over the last couple of months, they have died.
And what exactly is behind this? Is this due to climate change and the just essentially changing weather?
Well, it's more than just weather, it's climate change. There was no evidence of coral bleaching prior to the 1960s, the 1970s, when we first began to notice the increase in temperatures of the world's oceans. All of this bleaching has been in a direct response to global warming, and that's just the way it is. There's no getting around the fact that coral bleaching on such a scale was never a feature of healthy coral reefs.
What kind of action would you like to see from government authorities to try and tackle this?
Well, we were very optimistic recently in Paris when the governments came together and not only committed to a 2-degree warming over the next 100 years, but we're actually very much interested in a 1.5-degree warming. Now, we've already had a 1-degree warming, and you can see by the pictures on your screen the devastation that has happened with just a 1-degree increase in sea surface temperatures. We were very surprised, shocked, and amazed that such degradation is occurring at such a scale with such a slight increase. Now, if the governments of the world can come together to really commit to curbing emissions, cutting back on emissions, and really get at that 1 to 1.5 degree ceiling, then we might be in a better chance to save the world's coral reefs. And you know, it's not just the coral reefs. The coral reefs, I think, are just a really good canary in the coal mine, if you will. They're a good way of understanding how global warming is really affecting the planet.
Okay, John, really interesting to talk to you. John Pandolfi there from the University of Queensland.